The Bride, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal and starring Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale, is a new take on the classic Frankenstein story, following the monster as he tries to create a companion for himself. But when the bride is brought to life, things become chaotic, emotional, and much more unpredictable than expected. The Bride is one of the most visually stunning movies of 2026. The performances from our lead actors, Jessie Buckley and Christian Bale, are absolutely fantastic. Don't be surprised that one or both of them will be Oscar nominated by next year. Jessie Buckley kills it as the bride, and it'll be a crime against humanity if she doesn't get an Oscar nomination once the Oscar nominations rolls out, because she absolutely steals every frame of this movie. Oftentimes she's even overpowering one of the greatest actors of our generation in Christian Bale, and that's not a knock on his performance, it's just praise for her performance. It's almost impossible to take your eyes off of her when she's on the screen, because most of this movie she's playing essentially two characters. It's almost a schizophrenic. There's something chaotic and unpredictable about her performance that makes the character extremely fascinating to watch, and you can't keep your eyes off of her. When it comes down to it, Jessie Buckley absolutely killed it and probably has the best performance of the two, but Christian Bale's performance absolutely does it for me as his version of the monster, Frankenstein's monster. He completely transformed into this character to the point where he's almost unrecognizable. But beyond the physical transformation, you really feel the monster's pain and you really empathize for him. Just like the original story, he's just there to find a mate, someone to love. He is lonely. He's lived his life alone. You really feel the monster's pain and loneliness. There's this emotional longing for connection that Bale communicates extremely well. One thing I really loved about his character that's just a different interpretation of Frankenstein is that he has a love for movies. You see him going to the movie theater, tearing up every time he sees his favorite actor on the screen. He's a little bit obsessive over this actor who actually is Jake Gyllenhaal, Maggie Gyllenhaal's brother. It was just a nice thing to see. It was a different side of Frankenstein you've never seen before. One thing that really stood out for me in The Bride is how absolutely gorgeous this looks, especially in IMAX. This was filmed for IMAX, and I saw it last night on an IMAX screen. There are scenes in this movie where they go black and white for a specific reason that I'm not going to go into, but it really brings back that old 1930s aesthetic of the original. This movie also has an incredible score, and when you add a beautiful, impressive score to a movie, it just enhances it completely. At times it almost feels operatic, which adds to the grand and chaotic energy of this film. There are also moments where the movie feels almost punk rockish, and this was alluded to by Maggie Gyllenhaal in her interviews, and you can definitely feel the rebellious energy throughout this movie. When it comes down to it, the movie's gonna ride if you like Jessie Buckley's take on The Bride. She is 100% the star of this movie. She can act her butt off, and again, she should be nominated for this, but sometimes it's just a little bit overpowering. Sometimes it's a little bit too much. At the beginning of this movie, I was just trying to keep up with her as she goes back and forth with essentially her thoughts in her mind, her personality, where she is just all over the place. And in the first half of the movie, you're just trying to understand what is actually going on. There are moments at the end of this movie that should have connected a little bit more for me and been a little bit more emotional if they just took their time to slow it down a little bit and connect for me as a couple is a bad word, but as a pair. The movie is very Bonnie and Clyde like, which I loved about it. And I wish they spent more time on that with just them, just getting to know each other, just going through this journey together. But the movie shifts in different perspectives from their story to a detective noir story, which was kind of cool at first, but there were times where there was momentum with the bride and Frankenstein, and they jumped to these two characters played by Peter Skarsgård and Penelope Cruz, which she was just an odd choice for me in this one. I don't know. She just didn't work for me for whatever reason. I think it was just jumping from these two different tones, two different storylines. That part of the story just didn't work for me. I could have done without it. Yeah, there could have been a little bit of it because this movie struggles to tell its story. Did it want to be a detective noir story? Did it want it to be a Bonnie and Clyde movie, which that was my favorite aspect of it? Did it want it to be just a tragic love story? Was this like a vaudeville tap dancing artistic routine. There were times they go jumping back and forth, almost like it was sort of like a musical, sort of a play. This felt very Joker folie à deux, which that's not much of a compliment. It just jumped from different tones. I get they're trying to be different, trying to be bold. Maggie Gyllenhaal took a bunch of swings in this, and I appreciate for that. You have to take bold swings in movies like this. This is what cinema is about. But times it just didn't hit the mark. It was just all over the place. The tone jumps back and forth from super graphic, gothic to funny, which I appreciated, to this detective story, to this musical-esque type story, and it was just all over the place. I wish it just stayed in one lane, a little bit more focus on their love story, a tragic love story at that. But the emotional connection, I wanted to see it because the movie's just 100% full stop, chaotic, especially with her performance that, again, can be a little bit too much. So if you're not expecting something like that, it might be a little bit jarring, and it was for me. And I appreciate Maggie Gyllenhaal's voice in this. She obviously wanted to tell a story about feminism and women empowerment. She did it in an interesting way, and I appreciate it. I understood it from the beginning where she was going. At times, it felt like they were trying a little bit too hard, especially with Penelope Cruz's character as the female detective. Again, it felt like they're trying to mash in a couple of storylines just to really push forward that feminist movement. At times it felt natural to the story. At times I was rooting for it, especially what happened to the bride and her story. They do a good job with telling her story, telling this person that was essentially abused, and she's speaking out for all those who can't speak for themselves. I love that aspect about it. But sometimes it felt like, especially at the end, that they're trying to force it into the storyline with another side character that really didn't need to be the focus of the movie. I really wish they just focus on the bride and Frankenstein's character. I love that Bonnie and Clyde aspect, but once they veered off of it, it sort of veered off for me as a whole. So if you wanted to see this movie because of great acting, great visuals, a great score, this is a movie for you because those parts of the movie were absolutely fabulous. This movie feels a little bit long. The pacing is a little bit off as they jump through different narratives. If Jessie Buckley works for you, this movie's going to work for you definitely. For me, I was a little bit confused and lost at times. It was a little bit too chaotic, a little bit too much going on, jumping to too many narratives. And because of that, because there was less focus on the two characters and their story and their love, tragic story, it's just going to be a note for me. And I'm disappointed to say that because I was really excited for this movie. It was just a little too much of a movie. I wish it just stayed in one lane and didn't veer off into different lanes. The tone was all over the place. Confusing in the first half, got a little bit better as it got into the second half. But by the end of it, I was emotionally drained, worn out, and I didn't feel the emotional connection that I wanted to feel based on what happens at the end of this movie. So when that movie ends with me not really feeling much for it, it's definitely going to be a note for me. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope you stay on and subscribe and join me on this journey where I do reactions to movie trailers as early as I can, usually on the day it's released. And I will do an out of the theater movie review before the movie is released, just like this one. And I'll let you know if this movie is nope or dope. I give you my honest review. And please hit the like button, subscribe if you'd like, and I'll check you out later. Peace.